I am pleased to introduce our expert speaker, Nancy Cohen. Nancy is deeply committed to helping families thrive, and she feels fortunate to have dedicated over 30 years of her career as a clinical psychologist to this mission. Welcome, Nancy. We are thrilled to have you with us tonight. And I'm going to pass it over to you.
And I feel honored to be part of this and I'm really happy to be here. Your parent compass. What is it and how did it come to be? There's an evidence-based practice called parent management training, Kasdan parent management training, incredible years. There's all kinds of versions of it. And it's not often that well known. And but there's 50 or 60 years of evidence that if we can change up how parents are interacting with their kids in little bits, it can have really good effects for the parents and for the kids and for the family as a whole. So families who find your parent compass skills useful, some of them come, many of them, there's a lot of red we get at home. Parents are frustrated, angry, and afraid. They're fixing, controlling, and arguing, and there's a lot of separation, anxiety, and hopelessness and isolation. And also, there's a lot of people out on their own ice floes, right? There's a lot of teens and young adults who aren't coming out of their room, who are awake all night and sleeping all day, and parents feel like they're out on their own ice floes. And some families are lots of arguing and a little bit of isolation, ice flows. Some are mostly ice flows, and then they come together and argue some. But things are not going well, and kids are not doing well. Often adults are not doing well. So this is going to be my first question to you all to drop into the chat or the Q&A. What do we mean by positive and negative? Okay, guys, if you, with your tween, teen, or young adult, are validating, you listen more, you talk less, you're curious about them, you're accepting of them, and you hang out with them, do they feel like that's positive or negative? You're problem solving with your kid and you're fixing, you're teaching, you're suggesting, and you're criticizing. Is that going to feel negative or positive to your kid? So, in general, not changing, doing things that are accepting generally, not always 100% feel positive. And then as soon as we start changing our kids, it feels pretty negative. So we're going to keep coming back to that using skits a lot. And we think if a picture's worth 1,000 words, maybe a skit's worth 10,000 words. We'll see what you say after, see what you think after watching these skits. But we feel like they actually show the first skit we're going to go through. And thank you in advance to Lauren and Victoria. They're going to act out the parent and then the teen. It's going to show 8 to 1. How does a caregiver do positive, mostly positive, and very little negative interaction with a kid who's having a big issue? And then we're going to debrief. They're going to do the skit. You guys are going to watch it. We're going to debrief it. I'm going to hear what you have to say about how you thought the parent was effective. And then I'll teach a few skills based on what you guys pull out of the skit. And then the second skit is actually a parent and teen or young adult problem solving something hard together. And again, we're going to debrief it and then hear from you all. And then I'll teach a few parenting skills that were shown in this skit. Okay, the skits. The first one, well, both skits actually contain 2 skits. So the first skit, the first version of it is not very effective. It's going to be explosive. And then the second version of it will be more effective. The theme of this skit is Victoria's going to tell her parent, her caregiver, that she's quitting something. And she happens to be quitting math, okay? But what else do your kids quit? They quit taking meds, they quit jobs, they quit doing chores, they quit, like it could be anything that your kid is quitting. And we're gonna see what happens.
I hate math. It's stupid and I'm not doing it anymore.
But you need the class to graduate.
Like, whatever. No.
You're good at math. Have you been going to class? You should email your teacher, and there's free tutoring at school. I really think, though, that if you went to class more, it would work out fine. You know you're good at math.
You are so freaking controlling. Can you just shut up?
Hey, this is not my problem. It's yours. We do all these things to help you, trying to help you get organized, making meals, cleaning up around here, and your response is to blame your problems on us? How do you think that feels?
Young adult stomps out of the room and slams the bedroom door. Um, Beautiful. We're going to do the effective version in a minute, but just you guys both got Oscars for that. It's great. And we start it this way because you know, who's been there, who's had this happen in their house, right? It's just all of a sudden you say the wrong thing and it is just an explosion. We're now going to switch to a version that includes more 8-to-1, more positives and fewer negatives, we hope. Well, they're reading a script, so I know it will be more positives and fewer negatives. I'm going to give you guys a little warning. There's probably, I think there's cursing in this, isn't there, Victoria? Yeah, I'm trying to remember. And we include salty language for a reason. We'll talk more about it later. And, well, many reasons, but, and so a warning that you're going to hear some F-bombs and stuff, I think. And at the end, we're going to ask you, what did Lauren, this caregiver, do that was effective? We're going to be picking your brains, people who are watching. Okay. So Victoria, you start out with that same line as before.
I hate math. It's stupid and I'm not doing it anymore.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't matter how hard I work at it. I don't get it. And I'm still failing. I'm actually feeling like I'm feeling so stupid. I'm just going to drop the class. Like, just fuck it.
Wow. Okay. No matter how hard you work at it, you still don't get it.
It's so confusing. Like, the class last year, it felt easier and I could do it, but not this year. It's not possible.
You sound sort of hopeless and angry too.
Last year I could do math. I mean, I didn't do that great, but I did okay. This year I just can't get it and I freaking hate it.
Yikes. Yeah, makes sense that you're so frustrated because last year was much more doable.
Yeah, and my teacher, he's such an asshole. Like, when I show up in class, he does this passive aggressive thing of saying like, "Hello, Mrs. Gordon." And it's like he's calling me out and making fun of me, and he sucks ass at describing what is going on. This math is impossible to understand and he doesn't help.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Right? And after he said, "Hello, Miss Gordon," I walked out.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'd be really upset too if my boss said something to me publicly that felt so insulting.
Yeah, it sucks. Like, I'm not sure what to do about it. I just feel like I just want to quit.
Yeah, you're not sure what to do about it.
No, I'm so far behind. Like, I don't know. Can I ever catch up even? Like, I don't know.
You sound a little sad.
Yeah. I used to be okay at math.
Well, learning math can be hard, and you missed so much during the pandemic.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, if you ever want, I mean, I could help you think about possible ways to deal with this crappy situation.
Honestly, I really think there's nothing that would help. But I mean, what do you think would help?
So each of you, Victoria, what did Lauren do that was effective for you? What was helpful?
I will say that I liked just the way that she was communicating with me with her body language and the questions. The curiosity is definitely what made me change. Like, I know I'm acting here, guys, and I know that I'm trying to follow a script, but it did catch my attention. So those things, the curiosity and the body language and the care in the voice, really helped me calm down a little bit. Somewhat, because I'm still dysregulated, but having that person who I know in my heart somewhere loves me and cares for me, it's helping the dysregulation.
She cared and loved me. Yeah, cared for me. So she wasn't trying to change you. She was taking in and resonating with you.
Yes.
Lauren, how was doing that, even though you were reading a script?
Even reading the script, I have to say, I was like choking back my words because it's very unnatural to speak that way. And there's so much I wanted to say. And I really had to censor and filter it back.
So Lauren, thank you for being so candid about that. A lot of people say when they're reading this, but then they don't tell us till later, they're thinking, you can't quit math. And it's like a skit, right? It's all make believe. They're still like, no, it's pretty hard to do. It's really,
Yeah.
and that's why we kind of go through the skills for these hard moments. So other folks, what did Lauren, Lauren, what did you do that you thought was effective, even though it was hard?
Well, first of all, I kept it very brief. Less is more in terms of the wording.
Didn't
And exactly. I let her do most of the talking, and I didn't try to problem solve. Uh, I let her vent, and I um, parroted back to her, I guess, repeated back what I heard her saying. And I took a guess at how I thought she might be feeling, with space for her to correct me or, to tell me something different if she wasn't.
that's all, all what I saw too.
Not reacting to the swearing. That's a big one we discussed. No judgment, staying calm, validated how Victoria was feeling, acknowledged her emotions, and that because I didn't preach or tell her what to do, it didn't escalate, showed empathy.
A lot have mentioned that listened.
Yeah. One person said that the conversation felt unnatural. And I agree. I think it takes a lot of practice to be able to do that. It's not natural at all at the beginning.
Actually, the person who said it felt unnatural, what felt unnatural? It's a fake it till you make it. It's going to feel unnatural. And actually, a lot of what the parent was doing, and we're going to go over, is validation. And just FYI, we find it takes, well, we'll talk more about validation. It's really hard to do, and it can feel like you're someone else, right? That you're faking it.
Using someone else's voice or someone else's
Yeah.
words. Yeah. Well, one person said exactly what you just said, which is that it can feel fake to Victoria, like she's being managed or handled.
It might. Victoria, did you feel like you were feeling managed or handled?
I will say that I know that we're reading off script, and as someone like in my shoes, I even like I knew it was coming, but I was even like it actually affected me. The way that Lauren spoke to me actually affected me. It wasn't just another person to a person reading a script. I actually heard this. So I thought that was kind of empowering, the fact that we're reading something, but I still felt it from Lauren.
So it's
Well,
still
and someone else mentioned in the chat that it can sound patronizing if it's not authentic.
That's
I
what I'm saying.
cannot
Like
agree with you.
I knew it wasn't authentic because we're acting, but I was just gonna say that it did, guys, everyone that's listening, it did actually kind of make me feel a little bit calmer. It works.
And by the way, if we say things that we don't feel as caregivers or whatever, it is more likely to not go over. Like validation needs to be real. I'm going to go through and talk a little bit about validation, and then we'll come back to this. Validation is really at its heart, I see you, I hear you, I'm trying to understand you, and you make sense. It's a part of DBT, so some of you may know some of it, but validation is really a therapist skill that they use with clients. And then we're trying to help parents use validation with their kids. And I'm a therapist. I have clients, and I have a 21 and a 23-year-old. And let me tell you, it is so much easier to validate my clients than my kids. Like it's 100 times harder to validate my kids. So we are essentially, I'm going to, in 2 minutes, talk a little bit more about validation. And I just want caregivers and parents to know this is hard work. So let's jump into it. I see you validation. What you saw was the parent said, the teen said, I hate math. It's stupid and I'm not going to do it anymore. And the parent said, wow. Another ICU. The kid went on and on about Mr. Gordon and how Rudy, the teacher, is, and geometry is impossible to understand and it doesn't help, and he doesn't help. And the parent said, "Oh my gosh, these are just like ICU." I am acknowledging you said something, and it puts the conversation ball back into the teen or young adult Victoria's court. Um, I hear you is the parent repeated. I think, Lauren, you said there was a lot of repeating, right? Teen said, it doesn't matter how hard I work at it, I don't get it, and I'm still failing. I'm so stupid. I'm going to drop the class, fuck it. And parent repeated, I heard you. Wow, no matter how hard you work at it, you don't get it. And another one, Victoria said, yeah, it sucks. I'm not sure what to do about it. I feel like I want to quit. And parents said, you're not sure what to do about it. So, guys, the heart of validation is I see you, I hear you. And you know what? I see you is grunting, making sounds, and faces. Like, wow, oh, it's just doing something to acknowledge that you have seen them, and then they keep going. I hear you is repeating what they say. And the heart of validation is that. And really, if you only try two things out of what we talked today, just try making faces and noises, which is I see you, and repeating, which is I hear you. You got to see a couple other kinds of validation. I'm trying to understand you. The teen said, Victoria said, I'm so far behind. Could I ever catch up? Parent said, you sound a little sad. So, one way of trying to understand someone is guessing at their emotion. Now, Victoria in the skit was like, I think it says, she says, and then she's like, yeah. But, we all have kids. They could easily just be like, no, I'm not sad. I'm angry. And then as a parent, you're just like, oh, well, I got that wrong. You were angry. And then the kid goes on and explains how they were angry. That is super effective too. We don't have to get it right. I think, Lauren, you said you were like guessing at the emotion. It's totally cool if we're wrong. If you put the pressure on yourself to be right, it's just going to be exhausting. We don't, being wrong is fine. You can always just be like, yep, got that wrong. So sorry. And I'm curious, tell me, how is it really for you? Another example of I'm trying to understand you, we call a kernel of truth kind of validation. The kid said, I used to be good at math or okay at math. And the parent said, learning math can be hard. You missed so much in the last 2 years, right? In the pandemic. That's the kernel of truth is, what do you think is going on more deeply for this kid? And it's with a question mark. You guess it. And the kid might be like, yeah, or the kid might be like, no. And then you're like, oh, okay, I got that wrong. Sorry. So, but these are much harder to do, remember, than I see you and I hear you, right? Which is making noises, making faces, and repeating what the kid said. Those are easier. These are harder. I love personally this validation type, which is you make sense. The teen said, Victoria said, last year I could do math. I mean, I didn't do that great, but I did okay. This year, I just can't get it and I hate it. Parents said, it makes sense that you're so frustrated. Last year was so much more doable. If you can say anything to your kid that starts out with, it makes sense that humans really like hearing that they make sense. You can't, as a parent, make this up. It has to really make sense to you. But this is a great sentence starter way to do a validation. And then this other one, the kid said, right after the teacher said, hello, Ms. Gordon, I left the class. And the parent said, I'd be really upset too if my boss said something to me publicly that felt insulting. Or another sentence starter for these is, anyone would feel upset if they were embarrassed in front of their friends. So that's validation. The other skills we do are quicker, gentle, easy manner. You guys hit it on the head. Someone said about the skit, the parent stayed really calm. Hard to do, and boy, does it rack up your positives. Right? And if you can figure out how to stay calm, we love these pictures as inspiration, and having that gentle, easy manner. It really can help increase your positives. Parents they'll say like, I did this, I gemmed him. I gemmed. So sometimes just thinking about gentle and easy manner helps you do it. So 8 to 1, we increase positives, we reduce negatives. What on earth is pick your tree? Why do we think that's going to reduce your negatives? Well, pick your tree is a big picture skill, and most caregiver parent types, we have lots of things we'd like our kids to change. That's what all those trees are in the back, right? We want them to shower more and be polite and call their grandparents and get better grades or go to school because they're not going to school or work because they're not working and stop yelling at us and stop cursing. We got like a whole list of trees. The big picture pick your tree skill is we really encourage people to pick one tree that they're working on for the week or the month or sometimes the year and let the other ones go. And that is a way to reduce negatives, because when we're bugging kids about 6 trees and they're not really doing them, what we're doing is increasing our negatives, and we're not really very effective. We're usually not getting them to behave better. So the parent in that skit, did Lauren bring up that Victoria is failing 2 other classes? No. Did Lauren bring up that Victoria smokes way too much weed? No. Did Victoria bring up that, oh, sorry, did Lauren bring up that Victoria, whatever, Amelia? No. Lauren just stayed with the one tree and ignored everything else for that conversation. Very effective way to reduce negatives. The other reducing negative skill that Lauren did a lot of is what you focus on grows. Um, the picture for that is Lauren focused on the wildflowers in the foreground and ignored the burnt trees in the background, right? All that cursing. What would have happened if Lauren said, I cannot believe you were speaking that disrespectfully of your teacher, or I don't want to hear the cursing, right? The whole conversation would have gone off into that. So we're going to do another skit with our friends. Thank you, Victoria and Lauren, one more time. Again, the first version of it is going to be not go so well and it'll be over pretty quickly. And then the second version of it is longer and goes, we think, better.
Hey, listen, we need to talk. Things have not been going well for you at school for a really long time.
With a lot of attitude, rolls their eyes.
If things continue like this, you're not going to pass your classes. Like, have you ever even thought about that? How many assignments are you behind? Like, I've been looking at the list and it's so hard to figure out online.
Young adult or teen walks out of the room. Parent yells after the retreating teen.
Hey, stop. You know what? You can't make this better just by ignoring it.
End of less effective version. Victoria, your eyes, I thought they might roll out of your head. That was beautiful. Um, we've all had that happen. Um, when we know that there are problematic things going on with our kid, it's very hard to begin in a more even way. And that's why we're going to show a skit how the parent does that. So this more effective version, problem solving together with your kid, is really a very long process. The rest of this skit takes about 6 or 7 minutes, but the whole skit is about 20 minutes. This is the middle part of it. The effective skit starts with the parent going in to talk to Victoria 4 times, and Victoria like flips her off and leaves. What you're seeing is the fifth time the parent is trying to talk to Victoria. Oh, the other sort of prequel, what happens before, is that the parent kind of knows their kid is failing something and it's a class the kid needs to graduate. We're going to pretend you're a teen in high school, but it could be a class you need to graduate in college. It could be a middle school class. But the parent doesn't know what the kid knows, if the kid even knows they're failing. Okay? So let's get going. There we go. So parent has been trying to, remember, parent already is trying to talk to Victoria 4 times. Parent has been trying to ignore that they are unsure themselves of possible next steps to get the teen to address the problem, given that the teen seems unwilling to even go to class lately. Parent feels stuck and is glad the timer went off. That was the last time she tried to talk to the kid. Parent decides maybe with validation they can find out more about what is going on and is getting in the way of passing. So that's what Lauren's approaching this conversation with. She can't barely get Victoria to talk and she doesn't really know what's going on. Lauren doesn't. Okay. So parent.
Hey, me again. So, you ready for our 5 minutes of gross talk about school?
Oh my God.
I know, I know. So, we're brainstorming possible next steps, and I realized I don't know that much. So, I can imagine 100 different reasons why you might not want to go to class with that teacher. What's her name again?
Dr. Frederick, she sucks. She's so boring. Can't do the reading. There's no way. I just fall asleep the minute I look at it.
Parent is thinking that maybe her kid should use reading for that class to go to sleep at a reasonable hour since the kid is often up very, very late. And the parent says,
Oh,
It just goes on and on and on and on and on. Who cares? Like it's really, really old stuff and I don't care. It just goes on and on and on and on and on.
yeah, I bet. I bet it is.
My friends all hate it too. I don't even go to class.
Well, now it makes sense why it's harder for you to go to class.
parent's heart sinks hearing that friends are also not going. This is going to be a hard problem to address.
But I mean, what am I gonna do? Like sit there and listen to her talk? I just can't do it.
Yeah, sounds really, really hard to get through.
Long pause.
So, have an idea for a next step. So, maybe I can help you find, well, I don't know if it's called the same thing, but when I was your age, they called them Cliff's Notes. So, it was like shorter summaries of the material.
What are you talking about?
Well, listen, you don't have to agree to it, but maybe there are shorter summaries on American history that you could read instead.
Parent writes down that option on a piece of paper.
She'd never allow that. No, she's an asshole.
Huh. Okay. I could see that her first response might be a quick no.
Long pause.
Any other ideas about possible next steps to pass American history so you don't have to repeat it?
No.
Parent is encouraged that the teen has responded, even if it's a no.
Okay, well, I have an idea for a possible next step that I think you may also think won't work, but maybe it's worth saying.
Parent looks at teen and teen looks up at parent. Then parent says the following, trying to appear confident but not pushy.
Okay, so here it goes. What if you do a tiny bit of the boring reading, just enough to pass the test, and write whatever they need you to write? I know, this would be a ton, but then you'd be done with this horrible class and not have to repeat it.
Parent writes down that option on paper. Long pause.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough decision, but what? Look, our timer just went off, so we can talk more about it tomorrow.
Hey, night.
Have a good night. You want a snack or something?
No, I'm okay, thanks.
The next night.
Okay, so don't hate me, but I'm back to talk about American history, your favorite topic.
Long pause.
I can't do anything we talked about.
Oh, so none of the ideas feel like they might work?
American history is so boring. And I like the idea of a summary, but I'm just too far behind. Like, there's no way I can catch up, Mom. There's no way.
Parent is both angry at their kid for letting things go so far and needing help to catch up, if that's even at all possible. And parent is also impressed that their kid just said what was going on. Parent can't remember the last time that happened.
Yeah.
I don't know where to start. I got so thrown off by how boring it's all been that I haven't done anything at all. And there isn't much time left.
Hmm. Yeah, it sounds nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it is.
So, all right, so you just need to pass this class to not repeat it, right? So a D would be fine, right? So what if you check in with your teacher about the bare minimum you need to do to pass the class? Or like, do you already know what you need to do?
No, I don't know. I can't imagine talking to her. Like, no way. I don't, no.
All right. Another idea maybe is I could help you write an email to your teacher asking what the minimum is. I mean, I could see where it would be really, really hard to write that kind of email on your own at this point, but maybe I could draft it for you and then you can edit it, make it your own. You sound like you're not so sure.
Long pause.
You still with me?
Yeah.
Long pause.
You okay?
Can you help me write the email?
Yeah, I mean, sure. So let me just grab some, something to drink. I feel like we need Diet Cokes for this one. And should I draft it on my own and give it to you, or do you want to do it together?
You do it.
No problem. Okay. So I'll draft something. You can look at it and go from there. So thanks for working with me on this. I really appreciate it.
Parent drafted a short email for their teen to send, asking the teacher what was the most important assignment test to focus on to pass the class. Parent told their kid that the draft was ready and the teen should look it over. The teen didn't look it over and was about to send it without looking at it.
Whoa. Hey, hang on. I know this is probably really hard for you to read, but can you just read it out loud to me for a second just to make sure it's okay and that you can live with what it says?
Parent really wanted to say, I can't do everything for you, at least read it over. But parent remembered that this is a really hard email for the teen to send. It's amazing she's game to send it at all, and she's shaping the teen's behavior of reaching out to teachers. For now, the teen reading the email back to the parent is a lot and enough.
Fine. Dear Dr. Frederick, I've had a hard time keeping up this semester as I don't find the topic that interesting. I do want to pass the course, and I'm wondering if you could advise me about what assignment or test to focus on at this point. Thank you. Okay, it's fine.
Okay, awesome. So let's check in again tomorrow after school. I'm not going to bring up anything about school until then. Okay? You want to go do some driving practice?
Great, guys. Really, it is so much fun to watch these words coming out of your mouths. Um, I'm going to start with you again, Victoria. I'm going to pull up the screen. What did Lauren do that was effective there?
For me, it was about the fact that she is taking the time. I know it's a long conversation, but she is taking the time to work on how she's approaching me with her language. And she is watching, I think, just in curiosity again, helping me ideas what would make it, help me along, even though I'm not really participating. I'm not really into it. I'm not being like, a helpful daughter, but I feel the support. She's not ignoring me. Um, she's, you know, I'm sure she wanted to say other words, but she didn't. And I mean, as a teenager, I don't think a lot of teenagers want to do any work, especially when they're feeling dysregulated. So I felt like the time and effort really showed in the way that we were communicating. Like, I'm sure it could have been way worse, but again, this is the idea behind it, right?
I love that, Victoria, and I've not thought about that explicitly, but it does probably come true that the parent is trying hard and the time and effort. Lauren, what did you do that felt effective to you?
So again, I mean, I didn't talk as much as I wanted to. Um, I kind of threw out a few ideas just to see if any would stick without being pushy or telling her what she should do. And then once one seemed like it was something she might be interested in, even though I really felt like, why do I have to do it? Why can't she do it herself? I stepped in and I took the initiative to help her out
Mhm.
and still made her a partner by reviewing it and making sure that she was the one to send it. I didn't email the teacher on her behalf. I let her do it, and I got her buy-in, and I was able to help her in the situation.
So you drafted the email and you still partnered. That's again, it's really fun to hear what you guys have to say about this. Um, how about from the chat? What are we hearing?
People are loving how real Victoria is. So that is getting a lot of great feedback. Um, so
Thank you, everyone.
being respectful to the teenager, finishing the conversation when the timer goes off. We're not going on and on so that you earn that trust. It's going to be a short conversation. Being understanding, empathetic, kept it on topic.
Yes.
Um,
And you know what? I'm looking at the time and you guys got all these things. I'm gonna jump ahead and just pull out a few of the skills, but they're all things that you have come up with. Just to one more time, sometimes having a name on a skill helps you go home and try to do it a little bit more. Um, Picking the issue. Someone said it stayed on topic. The parent picked a tree. They were talking about this one class, not about the two other classes and the 10 other things the parent was thinking about. Really hard to stay on one tree, one topic. The other thing the parent did was they kept framing the tree. It was really the parent's tree passing. Did you guys catch a few times the parent said, so you don't have to repeat the class? Um, so the parent knew that the kid knew from earlier in this conversation that you didn't see that the parent was like, the kid was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to do this again if I don't pass. So when we pick our parent tree, Victoria, you probably weren't all that excited about not failing. And if you had to repeat the same class, it's a way of framing the tree that the parent cares about in a way to maybe keep the kid a little bit more engaged. A big time, Lauren, you were great at scaffolding, Victoria. So, guys, all things in the world for everyone, they're either easy, medium, or hard for the person. So, for Victoria, there are things that are easy that she as a teen can do on her own, medium things she needs some help with, hard things she needs a lot of support with. So, when we offer help that the kid needs, it's wise minded helping. If we try to help a kid with something they don't need help with, that's over helping, right? Or helicopter parenting. But we can also underhelp. And very few teens who are Victoria was officially in a hole. um, know how to climb out of holes. A lot of adults don't know how to climb out of holes. And what you did as a parent is you scaffolded her writing this email, right? Because there's no way I'm pretty sure, Victoria, did you have the ability to write an email to this teacher you hate who's boring to find out what you needed to do to pass? Probably no. So it's both teaching Victoria in the moment and supporting her in the moment, but also helping her learn climb out of hole skills. Inviting discussion. The parent, we really encourage short discussions, 5 minutes at a time. Parents get overwhelmed, caregivers get overwhelmed too. It allows us to go back and talk to another adult and calm down and figure out, like, get our gentle, easy manner back and figure out how we're going to validate and decide if this is worth pursuing, right? 5 minutes at a time, and then get out of the room. Really do end. And then the other thing you saw, we call this skill how pushy to be. Basically, how can you get tweens, teens, and young adults to do things they don't want to do? We call it friendly and annoying post-it note. That parent just coming in every day, like, hi, it's me. And through that, it's basically nagging. Did you notice? It really is nagging, but it's the most positive way we figured out to encourage caregivers and parents to nag, to encourage. It's just like for a 5 minute talk, and it communicates that your persistence. Like, I'm just going to keep coming. Hi, hi. Um, and the easiest way, Victoria, for you to get past this was to just have the conversation and have it be over, and then she would leave. Someone talked about the collaboration. It was a really excellent point. Um, there's collaboration is a huge spectrum. Guys, drop into the chat. What percentage, what would you say that was teen to parent collaboration? I'm curious what you all thought. And Victoria and Lauren, what would you say you thought the breakdown was?
I think it was 1% teen, 99% parent. And that's
That's how it felt, right? And how about you? We got 25, 75.
I thought it was
100%. We had
25-75.
25, 75, 50, 50. We're a little, oh, this is 64. It's really funny. I think all of them are good. Any amount, but even when you have a super quiet teen who will barely do anything, but you do all the problem solving with them and they're barely there, and they do really 1%, and the parent makes it all up, and the kid's like, and the parent comes up with the solution. It's totally different than the parent coming up with the solution and saying, this is what we're going to do, right? For kids who are not participatory, but at least they're present, you can also keep saying, anytime you want to come back to this, I want to hear what you have to say. If you want to try a different next step, that's fine. Like, you want to keep telling them you want to hear from them. And kids learn to problem solve together over time. And the last thing I'm going to talk just very briefly about is the problem solving process. It's basically, what is the tree, branch, or leaf being addressed, and what are the possible next steps? So initially, the tree was sort of passing the class. That's like a redwood. It's like a huge tree. So then they came up with, it's a branch or a leaf of, like, do you know what you need to do to pass? No. So then there's the email, right? That's like, even just, so we're trying, but most of the time it felt like Lauren and Victoria were like clear about what was the thing they were talking about. And then just, did you notice Lauren, the stage direction said, write down the idea, write it down so you can kind of go back to it. Problem solving together, water over a rock, oh my gosh, takes forever, and beautiful things can come of it. So I showed you a few increasing positive, decreasing negative skills. Actually, Lauren and Victoria showed them to you. I said a few words about them. And here are parts of the problem solving together process. The first answer to that is do your thing. is to focus on you and just try to geek out on it and get into it and try to do it. Sometimes then someone else in your world will see you doing it and will start to get a little curious, like, what on earth are you doing and why are you speaking to her that way? And sometimes I will say about a lot of these validation in gentle, easy manner, as soon as parents do the I see you, I hear you, pretty much they come back the next week and they're like, my kid stayed in the room an extra 30 seconds. It was incredible. Or my kid said one thing more to me than she ever would have said to me. So parent, we all have stuff going on at home. You know when your kid is like warming up a little bit. So sometimes someone else in your world will see it and they'll ask you, or they'll want to read the thing or read the handout. But I would really just focus on yourself.
Okay.
Also, there's really good research that um, if your really good friend in Winnipeg also does the training or also reads it with you, so not someone who takes care of your kid, but someone else who has their own deal, just who's your support person, that can really help a lot because at least you got one person you can talk to. Oh, that's where the rubber hits the road, right? Um, I would suggest that we be endlessly curious about our kids and validate them like, well, you know, the parents in these skits basically were like, why are you like failing? Like, what is going on here? And then validation is the non-change part. We're curious, learn. Kids, if you validate a lot, they put their cards out on the table, right? Like Victoria started telling her mom all this like stuff about not going to class and blah 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 blah. So, but that it was all non-change. It was just learning about Victoria. And then slowly we then go to the change part of things, which is like, so how is it going to be that you're going to pass this class? Is it important enough to you, or whatever it is? And that's where we're working to gently support them to do the work, which is another way of saying not let them off the hook. Support them in doing the thing, passing the class, taking their medicines, whatever it is we're trying to get them to do. So what's my real answer to that? I don't know. I think finding out more allows you through validation and also improving the relationship with the kid so that you're closer and they're going to be more likely to want to talk and want to engage. And then you move towards how is the thing going to be done? So then you're not letting them off the hook, I guess. So in decreased negatives, there's a skill we didn't talk about called break and wait. So notice in the skits, Victoria was not cursing at Lauren and was not sort of by the time someone is cursing at the other person, usually they're so dysregulated that nothing useful is going to happen. So the skills we went over are not the only skills. So there's I would have two parts to this answer. One is when emotions are too high or parents curse, caregivers curse, they can't, like it happens on both ends. It is best to just everyone takes a break and do something to calm yourself down, and then you schedule another time to come back together. So one answer to disrespectful, um, verbally aggressive speech is take a break. Okay, particularly if it is against the person in the room. Um, a lot of tweens, teens, young adults, though, can remain quite disrespectful to other people and the whole situation the way Victoria was. And Victoria, you still seemed regulated enough to keep having the conversation. So, I mean, at a certain point, you got to decide maybe she's too dysregulated, and even though you weren't going after your mom, but it is time to take a break, right? The bottom line about disrespectful speech is, well, guys, what would have happened if the parent started to say, you can't speak that way to me and you can't speak that way about your teacher? What would have happened? Victoria, what would you have done?
Sorry about that.
What?
Um,
Shut down?
yeah, I would have shut down.
And the
And
conversation would have ended.
yeah,
It would have-
and to be honest, I agree with you. Just so that everyone knows, I know from experience, I could have been way worse. And just for this purpose, I did not use as many swear words as I probably would have normally. Just putting that out there. But I definitely would have shut down.
Yes, shut down and or escalated. I mean, in my world,
Exactly.
it
Yeah,
was
and
escalating.
both. Yeah.
I can't speak any fucking like, oh my God, like it would have. So this was an example of what you focus on grows. What you focus on grows is moment to moment. It's like parent is choosing to keep talking about how they're going to figure out how to pass the class and ignoring all of that. Pick your tree is that parent is like one issue at a time, and it's fine however you use them, but both are really effective to keep moving ahead and be effective. Um, I will say, as a therapist, if I'm talking with parents and their tween teens and young adults about what the kid is saying, verbal stuff, it's the outside of the onion. We have dealt with them going to school, using fewer substances, like taking their prescribed medication, like how people talk. If parents really, really can't tolerate it, we somehow figure out a way to deal with it. But usually parents can tolerate more of it than they think they can, particularly if they're beginning to get more traction on other trees, big trees, that are really keeping this kid from thriving, right? So that can happen on both sides, right? Caregivers can be that way too,
Yeah,
as well
yeah.
as and the whole break and wait thing is a huge skill and unit and family timeout individual. It's like we're not putting younger children into timeout. We're trying to break and wait because the only way things are going to calm down is if everyone spends time and we work. There's a lot to be said for how to get out of the house. Um, so get out of the house. Listen to me. I mean, I have everything. First of all, a lot of families can manage to break and wait, and they get better at it. Okay, but for instance, I've had a lot of work between teens and young adults where the first 5 to 10 to 15 times, parents, younger kids, and the dog are all like, "We're leaving the house. We're gonna walk around. We'll keep checking in every 10 minutes." And the kid's like, "Ah, ah," and they just leave the house for 10 minutes and then they come and hi, and then the kids they can't get back in. But usually if the people who are more regulated keep physically moving away, when everyone or the target tween teen young adult is getting dysregulated, by the 10th time, things are like boom. And the more regulated parent is like, we got to take a break and wait and figure this out later. The teen is sometimes like, fuck you, I can go to my own room. And we're like, good, go do that. So they're learning to break and wait by some people leaving. Um, so it's just different with different families, but it's one of the most important skills we have to figure out. We work with a lot of kids, a lot of parents who actually have late adopted kids and foster kids, so this is a really soft spot. Um, and and it doesn't how do I say this? Part of this is breaking and waiting, and then you come back to have the next 5-minute conversation. These parents are just like, we're constantly coming back. So over time, kids are going to feel at the moment abandoned, right? And like they're going to like continue the conversation in 3 hours or the next day. So they learn that that's how things go and that they can actually tolerate parent leaving for an hour while everyone calms down. Um, in some situations, depending on the age of the kid, younger kids, we might really try to rehearse and figure out what they're going to do while they're calming down. I mean, it depends on how much help they need. But with a 26-year-old, or a 20-year-old, they're going to have to, a 16-year-old, they're probably going to have to figure it out themselves. Um, so picking a tree is one of the hardest things, and we spend a lot of time, and parents spend a lot of time thinking about it. I'll give you a few hints for it. Uh, One is the juice needs to be worth the squeeze. So a lot of times parents pick trees around kids getting up early and getting to school on time. Well, they're still getting C's in both their first and second period classes. Getting this kid up on time when the kid's not interested in it, it's going to be so much work. So parents will be like, well, that juice isn't worth the squeeze. I'm moving on. Two, kid, where are you going to get energy for this problem solving to happen? The kid has to be somewhat motivated or it will be near impossible to get anything to happen. So so you're looking for parent trees that kids can get behind, but we spend a lot of time. What's your kids' trees? How does your kid want their lives to be different? In this last problem-solving example with Victoria and Lauren, Victoria was, you didn't kind of know this, but Victoria really didn't want to repeat American history, so she could get behind it. But how would you kid like their lives to be different? Focus a lot on that. One of my favorite tree evolutions was a parent who started out with the tree was like hygiene, picking up the room, better grades, taking meds, eating more, eating better, like she all these, and we were like, oh my gosh. And we were trying to get her to narrow it down, but one of the things that was on the kids list was to go on this hike with his cousins this summer, and it was like May. And the parent all of a sudden realized, I want him to go on this hike. And the kid was like, I have horrible toe fungus. It was like bubbly. So this kid's not going on any hike. So the parent started out with all of these trees that were parent trees that the kid couldn't care less about. She looked at the kid trees and the kid was like, hike. And the parent was like, that's my tree too. I want you to leave for a month and not be home with me. And then they literally ended up on toe fungus. Like, because this kid, there was no way he was going to be able to treat his own toe fungus. And you know, it can get really disgusting and painful. So that's what they worked on. So it can often get very specific. And the kids got to be invested in it, or it's going to be really hard to get anything to happen. Um, and you do your best. You know, validation is not the only skill. And sometimes we as human parents, caregivers are not up for it. And sometimes our loved ones are so escalated that validation is not going to bring them down. Break and wait. We have lots of other skills. Like sometimes it's not going to work, but we make our best effort to match energy. Okay, my favorite break lines. Um, I really want to hear what you have to say, and I'm too worked up, so I need to take a minute. So I really hear what you have to say. I didn't say that you're a crazy person right now. I said I'm too worked up, right? So I'm gonna take, I need it. So that's one of mine. Another is I'm gonna say something I'm gonna regret, so I really need to take a break. They're all in me. But you know what also works? I have to go to the bathroom. And also kind of like um uh, you can just the other thing is sometimes if everyone is really escalated, no one's listening anyhow, and you can just walk. Like, but those are my most gentle, easy manner things to say.
Okay.
And you all probably have your own that you can come up with when you're calm. I kid about sharpieing those things on my arm so I can.
Well, this has been super great. The feedback, we can see the comments that it's been wonderful for people. So thank you so much for joining us and
Very
sharing those skills. Yes.
Thank you so much, Carol.